All right, folks, for the first time during the 2016 WNBA season, good evening, WNBA and women's basketball fans, and welcome into the WNBA 365 Network, your 24/7, 365 comprehensive home for everything revolving around the WNBA and the rest of the women's basketball universe. Joining you, folks, on a big day. It is the first show during the course of the 20th WNBA season here on WNBA 365. Opening week central, coming away, folks, from Studio 171 in San Diego and across the U.S. Of course, joining us in the Hangout tonight is Crystal Thomas and Tanisha Stewart, both up in Los Angeles, and our buddy Marquez Anderson from at WBB_247 also joining us tonight. Everyone, good evening. Good to see you. Fun weekend. 7 games on the schedule, plenty to get to and talk about. How's it going tonight, guys? Good to see you.
Hello.
All right, folks, and as always, again, we will, of course, get your interaction and get your thoughts on the entire WNBA and all the games across the weekend, and you can add that to conversation, folks, now officially on Facebook and Twitter and also on Instagram. Hit us up, folks, on Facebook. It is at facebook.com/WNBA365, or hit up our Twitter hub at WNBA365, at Calamac3, at ShortyMamba24, at Pup1010, or at WBB_247 with the hashtag WNBA365. With that, folks, before we get into anything in regards to the games first, of course, guys, really early on Saturday morning, I was able to finally get up our network Facebook and network Instagram accounts up and running. And for the most part, guys, so far it's been good, but I will be able to confirm some of you guys momentarily. So, Shorty, now that we have finally got the network on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on the big threes I call, because those are the main 3 networks I do use for my personal account and for my broadcasting. So, Shorty, now that the network is officially on these, on the big 3, we've got at least through the first 2 games, Shorty, a pretty good little following so far on both pages. And, of course, Shorty, we also do have, of course, YouTube and plus the Tumblr account. So, Shorty, now that we do have these 5 different avenues now for the network where people can still add to the conversation or get involved with it and stay on top of all the news, how important is it now, Shorty, that these networks are all in place with us here now again across all the social platforms?
I think it's very important for us to expand as we did, and as soon as you put up the Facebook account, I mean, it got so many likes within minutes. That's how big this thing is. It just it reached an audience very fast, and then the Instagram account as well. When the pics from the game was posted, the Sparks Seattle game, and that expanded pretty fast too. It reached a lot of followers. That's how this thing is getting big. It's getting big, so it's really important for us to expand on the network, and we're doing a good job so far.
Mm-hmm.
And Crystal, again, you were able to be the first host to take over our Instagram account. Of course, I put up the, again, folks, I'm like the graphics department here, so I'm in charge of putting out all the things for the schedule of games, for final scores, all that. That's all my doing. But Crystal actually took over our account, so it was both of us working simultaneously on the account during the course of Sunday when Crystal had gone to the Sparks home opener on Sunday. Again, Crystal, I know that, I'm the one here that's got almost everything. I have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, so on and so forth. And again, you and Shorty not quite on the IG scale just yet. But again, Crystal, knowing that you were pretty much taking over, you were the eyes and ears pretty much of our Instagram audience at the Sparks home opener. And I probably just asked though before we get to anything about importance. How fun was it though for you to kind of be the photographer for the network? From the Sparks home opener on Sundays. We know that you had a lot of really good photos and also had some player interaction as well after the game.
It was. Can you guys hear me? Because I'm still paranoid from last time. Okay. It was. It was interesting. I'm when it comes to Instagram, I don't use Instagram. There was a lot of things I'm like, how do I do this? What do I do? I felt old. I felt like an old woman trying to figure it out. But once I figured it out, it was very interesting. I'm glad that I provided you guys with some pretty cool content. There's still some stuff that I have to fix and put on there, but it was a cool experience.
And Crystal, also, I mean, we did actually have a couple of players follow the network. We had Planette Pearson from the Dallas Wings be the first player follower of our Instagram account. We also did have, of course, probably one of the greatest of all time, Delisha Milton-Jones also follows us along, Crystal, as well, with you as well. Being able to have photos taken with Brianna Stewart, Alicia Clark, and Jewel Lloyd, one of the photos was liked by Alicia Clark, and one photo as well liked by the Seattle Storm team account. So, Crystal, so there's one bridge already crossed there. We've already got 2 players following the Instagram account. Plus, we've already had a few players interact and a team interact. So, Crystal, again, now that we've had this bridge built, in your mind, what does that say to you, or speak in your mind about seeing already through one day already with players and teams already interacting with the network on Instagram?
I think it's kind of cool. I mean, I let you know that there are probably some players paying attention to what's going on, and people are paying attention to what's going on. So I think that just means that it's probably going to grow even more. And I'm glad that the Storm liked the picture, and I'm glad that Alicia Clark liked the picture. I thank her and Joe Lloyd and Brianna Stewart for the pictures again. Very nice, very gracious people. But I think that just lets you know the network is growing. Whatever, Shorty. I just think that lets you know the network is growing.
So again, folks, if you want to find out more about the network, again, we have it finally fully expanded to Facebook and Instagram. So you guys can hit us up on Facebook. It's facebook.com/WNBA365. Give us a thumbs up, and you'll be automatically connected to all of the latest doings with the WNBA and women's basketball world. And you can also give us a follow on Instagram. It's at WNBA365. And we will be putting out photos as often as we can. We also, by the way, folks, did form a partnership, you can kind of say, over the weekend with a friend of mine, Alex Z, in the AOSN, which is a up-and-coming sports analysis website, kind of sort of. Alex and I got together at a soccer match I was working this past weekend, and pretty much Alex is going to be kind of like a addition for us behind the scenes, sort of promoting the network for us so we don't have to do as much work. But we do want to shout out the AOSN and Alex Z, my buddy, for helping us out with that aspect. We will, of course, be in touch with you guys during the course of the season. But again, give them a follow, though, folks, too, as well. It's at the AOSN on Twitter for opinions and analysis from the average sports fan. Again, that is at the AOSN on Twitter for their responses. Okay, guys, 7 games on the weekend schedule, but first we'll get to one comment quickly from our good buddy Todd Mintz in the chat box, a couple of them actually. But first, Todd wants to say about opening weekend. He says opening weekend was tremendous. Crowds averaged better than 9,000 per game. Lowest was Chicago at 6,721 and over 10,000 for the Sparks home opener on Sunday. Guys, we'll begin our weekend recap with the Wings and Fever. Of course, the Dallas Wings guys playing their inaugural game as a franchise, and Dallas came back and beat Indiana in Indianapolis 90-79. Planette Pearson fueling that team with 17 points. Odyssey Sims with 14. Karima Christmas with 13. And notably as well, Courtney Paris also with 9. For the Indiana Fever, it's the rookie Tiffany Mitchell with 18 points, Arlena Larkins 14 points, Erica Wheeler with 13, and Maggie Lucas with 11. Tamika Catchings in her first and her last first game, you can say, of her career in 25 minutes had 6 points. So Shorty, Dallas, more importantly, wins their inaugural game as a franchise. So as we said, congratulations to Dallas for, again, accomplishing that feat again of winning their first game as a WNBA franchise. So, Shorty, one thing that Molly strikes me is no Diggins, no problem this time at least for Dallas in Game 1 of their season. Shorty, your takeaway from Dallas again, sort of, spreading their wings and getting their first win as a franchise in pretty convincing fashion, though, late in the game.
Yeah, I mean, even though I had originally picked the Fever to win this opening day matchup, I mean, I wasn't surprised that the Wings could handle their own. I mean, this is the same team who, still made the playoffs without Skylar Diggins, so it wasn't surprising at all that they could come back. They were down for a bit in the early going. I'd say the first half, and then in the second half they came back. It came back roaring and took over the game and ultimately led to a victory. But I think it was, it was, led behind Planette Pearson, who, shot 66% from the 3-point line. So she was pretty big. But also, interesting enough, I mean, yeah, the Fever lost, but, they definitely did have big games and big contributions from their rookie, Tiffany Mitchell, as you said, 18 points. And Erica Wheeler as well, came up big. Catch sort of went down in the game. She got hit in the midsection and had to, walk off for a little bit. But other than that, I mean, definitely a big win for the Dallas Wings.
Crystal, real quick, our buddy Eric Nemchuk wants to remind you still owe him 50 cents in the chat box. By the way, folks, Eric is going to be
Oh my
Eric will be on a bit
God.
of a hiatus from the network right now, folks. Of course, Eric, a writer at today's Fast Break, will be pretty much booked and slammed for a bit, so Eric will be away from us for a little bit, but he will be back though sometime when he gets a free path to come back to the network from today's Fast Break. But Crystal, again, as we'll get to once more with Dallas. They started off a little bit slow in this game, but then, like I said, though, I mean, they sort of took over in the second half, third quarter, really, fourth quarter even as well. Again, Crystal, thoughts again about Dallas winning their inaugural game as a WNBA franchise on Saturday?
For one, Eric, you're not going to get your 50 cents unless April Sykes scores 40 points a game. Two, I think Dallas played well. I think Dallas played how we were expecting them to play. We knew that Dallas would be a tough team coming in. We knew that they would get a new look as far as their team goes. I'm actually impressed with Dallas. I've said that before. I think they will actually be a factor in this league. I think they can make the playoffs, but they played well. I mean, I just want to see if they can keep it up. Hopefully they can. Hopefully, no injuries. But I would love to see how they play and how they do in the future games that have coming up.
And Marquez, I know that for a fact I had this game sort of as a under the radar game to watch, with a slew of other games to watch, including the primetime game on ESPN. But Marquez, what are your overall thoughts, though, again, about seeing Dallas going to, a pretty tough building and, again, beat a pretty good Indiana team on Saturday?
Well, can y'all hear me first? Can y'all hear me first? Okay, so I was really impressed with Tiffany Mitchell and her debut, how she was able to score from just about everywhere on the court, and I think what hurt Indiana though down the stretch was Tamika Catchings took that fall, and of course they are still kind of young in terms of closing games out, but I was still impressed with what they were able to do with Dallas, and on Dallas's case, I think that Planette had a really good game, but they too had some struggles during that game because they started off really slow. But I still have to shout out Plaisance. She was Ann Waters. She was Ann Waters, Crystal.
Some thoughts from the chat box, folks, from Todd Mintz about this. Todd says he did have Dallas winning. And he also says, guys, about how impressive Odyssey Sims was playing with Pearson while Diggins was out for the game as well. He also says that the Fever struggled a little bit and missed a lot of easy shots in the game. But again, the Dallas Wings win their inaugural game as a franchise on Saturday by the final score of 90-79 from Bankers Life Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. Moving on, Shorty, to the Liberty and Mystics, where the Liberty and Mystics played back and forth ball up until the fourth quarter when the Liberty pulled away for good by beating the Mystics 87-76 from Verizon Center in our nation's capital. Tina Charles had 24 points and Sugar Rogers with 19 points as well. Also notably for New York, Brittany Boyd back to full strength after that wrist injury she suffered in the postseason last year, 7 points. And also Lindsey Harding, her first game back after missing last season, also playing with 6 points. And for the Mystics, it is Taylor Hill with 20 points, Bria Harley 17, and Stephanie Dolson with 9. First-year rookie Kalia Copper with 7 points in her rookie debut. And, of course, the Mystics right now still without Ivory Lotta, who's coming back from a injury suffered during the off-season. So, Shorty, New York, as we know, rebuilt team a little bit, lost a few puzzle pieces, brought in a few new puzzle pieces. Washington also still fairly young, and as we already had talked about a couple times already about them, making the most out of their roster with not having a lot of star power on it. Shorty, overall final takeaway from the Libs and Mystics on Saturday from D.C.
Well, I had predicted that the Liberty would win this game, and they did because it was just too much dominance from Tina Charles, who had a double double. Sugar Rogers had 17 points as well, but like I said, too much dominance from Tina Charles, and the post players were the Mystics couldn't counter. I mean, pretty much Emma Misamin and Stephanie Dosen were irrelevant to say the least. And even though their guards, came up big, Taylor Hill 20 points, Bria Hartley 17 points with the buzzer beater, to end the half, but still, it's just too much Tina Charles, and that's what ultimately led to their victory.
And Crystal, this was a pretty monster weekend, I think, for the Liberty. And Toddy Mintz even just pointed this out as well about how Sugar Rogers was, hot all weekend, and I believe had a career high in points in one of these two games. But we'll get to the next game from them from yesterday a little bit later in the show. But, like Shorty said, though, I think it was just pure post domination by Tina Charles with that, with pretty much her doing whatever she wanted to do against the Mystics in that area, in the paint, scoring, or the jump shot she was draining or whatnot. Crystal, final takeaway from New York and Washington from day one.
Well, I'll agree with everything what Shorty said, but let's not forget that Lindsey Harding had 7 assists. Those are and very important stats. How else would Tina Charles get the ball pretty much? I mean, she can't pass it to herself. So I think Lindsey Harding for that team is actually going to be very well. I think she's going to distribute well for them. We saw it yesterday. I mean, they beat Washington, who virtually really didn't play a good game. It kind of like Stephanie Dolson was on the floor. It looked like Emma Misamin was asleep out there. But it's only the first game. We don't know if it was first game jitters. We don't know if it's jet lag for a couple of players, but I do think they'll get it together. But ultimately, New York is looking really good. They're looking like they may just pick up where they left off last year.
And Marquez, it's something I think I hammered home on the preview show, I think, when we all got here, of course, with Mike Peter joining us as well from the Lynx organization, was, the fact that, would New York be able to carry over that momentum from last season? And so far through at least through Saturday, they did so. And I think, though, as well, that, with Tina Charles, simply dominating the Mystics in the paint, that was a real big key turning point in that game. Whether it was, jet lag, as Crystal said, or whatever. I mean, that was just, I think it was utter domination, for TC in the paint. But, Marquez, what do you think, though, about New York and Washington?
Well, to me, what hurt Washington was Misamin wasn't as aggressive as she really needs to be, and she sometimes struggled with that at times last year. It's like she doesn't exactly know how good she is and can be. So when she's passive, Washington seems to struggle because they need her to produce for them. And Hartley and Hill, they're what they did was huge because Washington's going to need that, especially with Lotta out. And Hartley, I think, went 4 for 6 from 3. So if she can continuously make those at a consistent rate, that's going to be huge for them. And New York, I mean, Tina was just Tina. And this game, she had Sugar Rogers backing her up, and that's going to be another huge thing for them if someone can consistently take away the load off her so they don't have to rely on her as much as they did last year.
And Shorty, Todd just brought up a pretty interesting question. He's questioning the coaching strategy by Mike Tebow. He's wondering, though, why do you think he put Emma Miesman on the bench during the stretch drive until 2 minutes were left in the game? I think it's either perhaps because I believe what I had gathered from a few sources was that Miesman had literally just gotten back from playing overseas, either earlier in the day or really early in the morning, perhaps on game day. So there may have been something there. Perhaps, I'm not fully sure, but Shorty, do you believe that there may be a reason or an explanation as to why Mike Tebow would put Miesman on the bench during a pretty big drive that Washington was on until there were 2 minutes left in the game?
Well, if those rumors are, said to be true, then, I believe, what he did made sense because that is true that a lot of, these players are just now coming back. I mean, we previously talked about the Indiana Dallas game, and they lost due to, at least one of the reasons why they lost because Marissa Coleman had just got to the arena like hours ago. So she had just got back from overseas to the arena on that same day, of game time. So, it's true that a lot of these players are just now coming back in. They're going to, at least need some time to rest before they fully get back into, game action, or at least WNBA game action.
So again, folks, New York takes down the Mystics on Saturday from Verizon Center in Washington, D.C. by the final count of 87-76. Shorty, moving on to by far the most anticipated game that was also, by the way, a record-shattering audience for the Lynx Mercury Round 3 from what had occurred, of course, with the beginning of the season for those two teams, but, of course, the carryover from last year's conference final game. But, of course, Shorty, a record audience shattered a ESPN record for WNBA for a WNBA telecast since 2011 was the last time they had a record for the record. By the way, folks, from what was in press today from a few sources, highest watched WNBA game that was not televised on ABC since 2011. So, Shorty, obviously that was one part of the story, but of course the Lynx came out. And what I would also say was a back-and-forth game as well, but ultimately Minnesota ran away with the game, blowing Phoenix out 95-76. It is a 19-point victory for the defending champs, highlighted by putting up a combined total of 43 points in the second half of the game. Notably for the Mercury in the game, Diana Taurasi, first game back after the offseason rest, 18 points. Penny Taylor, first game back after offseason rest, 13 points. Brittany Griner had 12 but was in foul trouble for most part of the game. DeWanna Bonner also with 10, notably. And also Courtney Williams, first-year rookie, 2.5 minutes played, no points. Also notably for Phoenix as well, Isabel Harrison, first game back as well from a couple of injuries, 4 points. And Naira Fields, 7 minutes played, 1 point from the charity stripe for her. And for Minnesota, it is Maya Moore, 27 points. Simone Augustus, 21 points. Sylvia Fowles with 17. Lindsay Whalen with 14 points. And first-year rookie Bashara Graves, notably, with 2 points in her rookie debut. Shorty, a score line that none of us probably predicted or would see happening. But Shorty, more importantly, though, that record, though, again, it is now the largest audience for a WNBA game on national television, bigger than it was for a ABC telecast back in 2011. So, Shorty, how important is that for you in your mind, again, that you had, as you know, again, the two marquee teams of the league, the two teams that have been the cream of the crop the past couple of years on ESPN1, not on a other ESPN family network, but on the main mothership of ESPN, and again, shattering a 5-year record for largest home audience on television?
I definitely think it's great, and that's one of the things that the WNBA and ESPN wanted. They wanted to put, the best matchups, on opening, day, and they chose those two, said teams, two powerhouses within the WNBA, and it shattered records because those are the two teams that not just WNBA but casual fans also want to see as well. So it was definitely a home run for them. But as for the game itself, I say that second quarter made a lot of difference. It made a difference when the Minnesota Lynx outscored the Phoenix Mercury, I think 28-14 in that second quarter, and just things went downhill for Minnesota. Taurasi and Taylor, still kept them in the game, but other than that, uh, the Lynx just ran. Oh my goodness, Maya Moore, 27, 10 assists. That was really big. 27 points, 10 assists. Sylvia Fowles, double, 17 points, 14 rebounds, and just all across the board, the Lynx were just dominating. Even Renee Montgomery from the bench came out and had 5 steals. She was out there snatching everyone's wigs. I can see Mercury players left Serena ball-headed because that girl was out there snatching everything. Even though it was a big win for the Lynx, I will say that not to make too much of it quickly. the Mercury are just getting back into form, especially with DT and Taylor. Getting them back into game shape. So this was a big win for the Lynx, but let's not make too much of it because the Mercury will not look like this in September.
Yeah, and it's a good point to make, Shorty, as well. And Crystal, I know that you and I had conversed about this on Saturday night in regards to how Phoenix looked, either out of sync, out of form, or lackluster. But again, you can't just, take puzzle pieces away and then put them back in and expect it to work ASAP. It's going to take time or weeks. It'll take days, weeks, and hopefully, in their case, not months. But it's going to take time, though, is what I'm getting at. When you form super teams or you try to, rekindle old magic, with any team, it's going to take some time. Crystal, your final takeaway, though, from for one deal, obviously, largest home audience watching the game on ESPN since 2011, but also, again, a one-sided affair, at least for the second half, with Minnesota running away from Phoenix late in the game.
Well, first, about the largest home audience, that lets you know that people do watch the WNBA. People do watch women's basketball. Just because you don't watch it, not you as anybody on here, but just because you don't watch it doesn't mean that nobody else is watching it. So that lets you know that people really do care about the league. They do care about the sport. As far as that Phoenix game goes, it started off like it was going to be a really close game, really decent game. But then as long as the game went on, you kind of started watching. You're like, ooh, like it looked like a bad car wreck that you just couldn't turn from. And one of the things is you can't have Brittany Griner out there playing like a rookie. And she completely played like rookie Brittany Griner. There was no assertiveness. There was no aggressiveness. She was kind of just out there. I mean, she had 2 early fouls, like she normally does when she's trying to get control of. And it was just there was no aggressiveness from her. I mean, there was no rebounding from her. There was no rebounding from Bass. Most of their post players weren't in position to do what they needed to do. So hopefully it's just the first game jitters for them. Hopefully everybody's trying to get their timing back and get everything going. So I don't expect Phoenix to play like this often. I mean, you can't win them all. You're going to have bad games, but that was just a really, really bad game. They made Minnesota look really good. They made Minnesota look scary again. And we can't have that because we don't need Minnesota winning any more rings. So we can't have that. But I will say, to make it quick, I'm loving how healthy Simone Augustus is looking. I haven't seen Simone Augustus look this healthy in a while. So she looked really good out there. I think that was half the reason why they did so well. Waylon, Augustus, and Fowles, they really played a really good game. And I think and Maya Moore. How could I forget Maya Moore? Once all 4 of them have a good game, it's over. There's no way that you can think about winning that game.
And Marquez, that's 2 points I want to bring up, though, was the health of Minnesota specifically came to fruition on Saturday was, finally Waylon is refreshed, Augustus is back to full strength, Moore's been healthy as well, then Fowles also playing up to what she can, and that's what Tommins brought up as well was simply, guys, Fowles owned and dominated Griner in Todd's mind on Saturday. Marquez, how about your final takeaway, though, from both the record being set for television audience, but also, again, a good game up until Minnesota ran away from Phoenix late in the game?
The record just shows that Minnesota is one of the bigger draws for the league, and so is Phoenix, because I mean, hey, ESPN has Minnesota. What? How many more times? Is it 5?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So the WNBA got exactly what they wanted, and I expect it to happen more so throughout the year, because I mean, Minnesota, people want to see that. They were on top of their game that day, and what more can I say? I gotta shout out Moan and Sil, Money Moan and Big Still, because I mean no one had answers for them, and Maya was just Maya. But Phoenix, I don't expect them to go out like that anymore, but I can't discredit what Minnesota did to them though, because I mean Gia came out with some great intensity and so did Montgomery, but Phoenix, they'll be fine. Once they get everything together, they're gonna all look like a bunch of Ian Waters out there.
And that's the point I was getting at, though, as well. Is you can't expect a new team or even a team that you did have play 2 years ago. And again, you have a couple puzzle pieces out of the puzzle. You can't just put them right back in and say, okay, go win 30 games, because it's going to take time for them to re-gel as a unit now, especially now again that you're re-adding two pieces back to the puzzle. Moving guys to the next game from Saturday. Chicago and Connecticut was also a good one, but the Sky ultimately ran away from Connecticut without the MVP, Elena Deladon, by beating Connecticut 90-73, but the Sun had a 33 third quarter, I should say, in the ball game. For the Sun, Alex Bentley, 14 points. Rookie Rachel Banham, 13 points, made 3 of her 9 three-pointers in the game. Shakina Strickland with 9. Jasmine Thomas with 8 points. Shania Gumake, her first game back after having microfractured knee surgery over the offseason, 4 points. Also for other rookies for Connecticut as well, Morgan Tuck with 5 points in almost 20 minutes played, and then Jonquo Jones also with 5 points. Kelsey Bone, notably as well, also with 5 points in the losing effort. For the Chicago Sky again with minus Elena Deladon due to illness on Saturday. Courtney Vandersloot, 14 points. Cappy Pondexter, 13 points. And notably for some rookies from the draft as well, for the Sky, Imani Boyette had 4 points in 8 minutes played in the ball game. So Shorty, first and foremost, I remember making the phony joke about Kurt Miller and his system. If they don't shoot 20 or more threes in the game or attempt it, it's not going to fly well with them. Okay, they attempted 27, so they're living and dying by the three for one deal as Kurt Miller. Okay, first year coach probably putting in that system. So Shorty, you've seen Connecticut at least right now being a team that's going to probably be one of the teams that will live and die by the three. Chicago winning without Deladon. Shorty, how about your final takeaway from the game on Saturday between the Sun and Sky?
When it comes to the Sun and the Sky, I mean, you talked about their new offensive system. Well, definitely going to take some time for them to gel within that system because things just wasn't working out. I know Kelsey Bone is working on, her threes. She attempted 2, made none. So that's how things are going with that. But, I mean, it's definitely an interesting game, especially for the Sky. I mean, they were without Elena Deladon due to an illness. So, the rest of the players stepped up, especially Courtney Vandersloot, scoring 14 points, 7 assists. So, it was big, for them and definitely helped them, carry on through the game. But like I said, everyone, stepped up in her absence, led to a big blowout victory for the Sky. And I had them winning anyway.
And Crystal, the thing, though, I want to bring up, and also but Towers bring up, though, and we both agree on this, is Connecticut perhaps a little bit inexperienced, but also maybe a little intimidated playing as a unit for the first time. And, Crystal, when you have a team that's so young like Connecticut is, and there's, a few vets on there, but they're still like, 4 or 5 year players, it's going to take time, and maybe in this case for CT, KT, it may take a few months for them to kind of get things, on even keel. And again, 27 attempted threes in the game was one deal for Connecticut. And then also with the Sky, Todd says they were solid. They went solid with 10 deep. Vandersloot was great. Quigley played well. Erica was good. The whole team was. And also, again, Todd thinks that Connecticut a little bit inexperienced, but perhaps also maybe a bit intimidated as well in their first game. Crystal, what do you think, though? Is it probably more game one jitters for Connecticut, or the fact, though, in your mind that Chicago, again, won pretty easily while missing EDD from the lineup?
I think it was probably, since they're a young team, a new system, it might have been a few jitters. I mean, not to take away anything from Chicago. I mean, Chicago's a really good team. We've said this before, but I think Connecticut being as young as they are and them going through a coaching change that quickly, I think that they're still probably getting used to the system that Kurt Miller has. I mean, we all saw, and I think we all said it, that preseason they were going to just shoot a lot of threes. We noticed it in the preseason games. They were just shooting a whole bunch of threes, and I think he's trying to make that a little bit of their system, but I have a feeling of the course of the season, you're probably going to see a little less threes and a lot more movement and driving to the basket. But, I'm not a coach, so I can't make those type of decisions. But I think he's going to just see how it plays out, and he'll probably figure it out from there.
And Marquez, I think, though, perhaps as we've already touched base on again, perhaps a little, inexperience for a team as young as Connecticut is going to be there for any team, any sport, any level. But also perhaps intimidated, I would probably say, Maybe, but not really, because I think that you're going to go in there to any game regardless of who you're playing, knowing that you're going to have a chance to win. But I think in this case, so that both those I think would probably work out best. Is again inexperience for one, perhaps intimidation as well being used, maybe. But what's your final takeaway though, Marquez, from the game between the Sky and Sun?
Well, I think that just happens when you put up that many threes, because all it takes is one bad shooting night, and that's what happens. So I think once the season progresses, once they start balancing the offense out a little more, like Crystal said, and limiting the threes they take by maybe doing some inside outs and like some moving screens, I think that may do the offense some justice. But they really weren't that effective on the inside either. I don't think Bone particularly shot well that game. Shanae was kind of limited in what she did. But Chicago just played really well defensively, because I was talking to Eric about this, and he said they looked incredible on both sides of the floor, even without EDD. So I think this can be more so about Chicago than Connecticut, because, I mean, Connecticut is a lot of moving pieces, and it's just going to take some time to adjust to what Coach Miller wants to do. But once they figure it out, I think they'll have better showings than what they put out there the other day.
And by the way, folks, an update, too, from Chicago Sky on Twitter earlier in the evening. Elena Del EDD was back at practice today and is expected to play in their Wednesday game at 12:30 Eastern, 9:30 a.m. Pacific. Again, EDD, right now slated to play, make her season debut on Wednesday morning and Wednesday afternoon when they face off with Minnesota from the Allstate Arena. Excuse me. Moving on, guys, to the final game on Saturday night, the Atlanta Dream and San Antonio Stars, two teams that are perhaps looking towards the future, but both teams hooked up from AT&T Center. And Atlanta went away winners with a 10-point victory over San Antonio in overtime, 73-63. The Dream outscored San Antonio's 12-2 in the extra period of play from AT&T Center. Notably for Atlanta, Angel McCautry, 15 points. Tiffany Hayes, 13. Lasia Clarendon in her first game with Atlanta, 12 points. Also notably for the Dream, Elizabeth Williams, 6 points. Megan Simmons, her first WNBA game as a pro, also with 6 points. And looking across the board at others as well, Sierra Burdick was a DNP for Michael Cooper in Atlanta on Saturday night. For the Stars, it is Kayla McBride, 24 points. Derek Hamby with 14. Mo Curry with 9. And Jane Appel Marinelli with the game-tying bucket at the final horn with 4 points. And notably for a first-year rookie, Mariah Jefferson, her rookie debut, 2 of 10 from the field in 34 minutes played, -2 and plus-minus finished at 4 points in her rookie debut in front of a crowd of 7,572 at AT&T Center. So, Shorty, two teams, as we already said, are looking towards the future, perhaps. But again, I think it was a rough one to watch a little bit. I think like the only marquee play perhaps may have been Appel Marinelli's game-tying basket at the final horn to send the game to OT. But then again, a 12-2 OT period for Atlanta, pure utter domination there. I think, though, again, maybe a little bit rough to watch, but I think, though, obviously two teams that are perhaps showing some life for later in the year, maybe towards 2017. Shorty, final thoughts on ATL and San Antonio?
Yeah, no offense to Marquez, but this game was really, 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 really bad. But it did make for an interesting game, by the fourth quarter. I mean, Mariah Jefferson, even though she's a rookie, I mean, she definitely made that a smart play to penetrate in the paint in that last possession and dish it off to Appel Marinelli for the OT tie-in shot there. So that was definitely pretty big. And she had 6 assists, in the game as well. So that was pretty good for Mariah Jefferson. But yeah, only scoring 2 points in the OT frame definitely, wasn't good for the Stars, and they eventually, lost the game to the Atlanta Dream. But also, yeah, McBride as well, 24 points. So, she was definitely doing damage. But overall, yeah, game just wasn't entertaining.
Crystal, normally there's a game on the schedule sometimes that, you kind of like look at and say, I know this is going to be a really good one to watch, and that was, unfortunately the case in this game again. I think that like the lone play that I think probably sticks out again was probably, Mo Jeff making that move and making that move inside, finding Jane Appel Marinelli down low, and she makes the game-tying basket at the final buzzer. And then you see the overtime period. It's like, oh my goodness, what happened here between these two clubs? Crystal, final thoughts and takeaway from Atlanta and San Antonio. Again, an overtime game nonetheless on opening night.
Despite the two teams that were playing, it actually was pretty close at first, except for, like you said, overtime and the game got away. I would have to agree with Shorty. For Mo Jeff to be a rookie, that was a very heads-up play. Not many rookies at that moment would have made a play like that. They probably would have got flustered and threw the ball away or took a really bad shot, but she did a really good job. That shows maturity on her, and that lets you know that she's probably going to be a really good guard in this league whenever she develops and gets her timing down. Sorry, but it was a really good play, especially for Jane Appel to score that shot on her birthday. I think that meant a lot. I mean, they didn't win, but sorry, Marquise, I know you probably had a heart attack, but overall it was a pretty interesting game until overtime hit, and then that's kind of when it went away from San Antonio. But I mean, they're rebuilding. You can tell they're going to start rebuilding stage soon. So, like I said before, you can't win them all.
Now, if I make a shot like that on Wednesday for my birthday, someone better buy me a Newcastle at Buffalo Wild Wings in Mission Valley in San Diego if that happens. But anyway, Marquez, I think the bigger issue I want to bring up, though, about San Antonio, and I'm sure it's a trend that you've probably seen, though, through parts of last season and in the preseason this year, the low-scoring quarters. I mean, 2 points in overtime. There was a point earlier in the preseason they had like 5 or 8 points. I mean, that's something that I believe that's a tough pill to swallow for anyone. Is scoring that many points in a 5 or 10 minute quarter. I mean, oh my goodness. I mean, that's a real tough one to swallow. Marquez, what's your final takeaway though about the Stars losing an OT to Atlanta on Saturday night?
Well, I actually just got watching that game for a second time not that long ago, so I have some takeaways in terms of the overtime period. You can tell fatigue had set in at that point because we went 9 deep with Haley Peters being the 9th we played, but she only played 4 minutes. Colston played about 11, so really it was about 7 people that played the majority of the game, and at that point you can just tell people were tired, and the offense really got stagnant when there was no movement. And part of Mo Jeff shooting 2 for 10 was because she had to force up some really tough shots at the end of shot clocks to avoid the shot clock violations. And we had 7 of those alone. And you could tell that it was some jitters though too, because a lot of people were missing open shots that they normally would make. But the offense has got to come from someplace else. Kayla can't do it on her own, but there were some flashes though, like the shot that turned into overtime. At that point, I was like my heart was palpitating. I was screaming. I was jumping up and down. But we just faltered in the overtime, and the offense is just gonna have to come from other places. I mean, Mo Jeff did a great job, but we need shooters and people that can make plays one-on-one sometimes.
Yeah, so there's definitely needs to be, either, some the scoring can't be all in one player as well. And Tom just informed me, that again the Stars have had those droughts of scoring for at least the last 3 seasons. They will play well for a bit, but seem to fizzle at certain times. Again, they only get 2 points in the 5-minute extra period. Guys, moving to Sunday's games, a couple of early ones on Sunday. Just 24 hours ago pretty much, but the LA Sparks opened up their historic 20th season in style with a 30-point victory over the Seattle Storm. Again, this was the 3rd consecutive year that LA had opened up with the Storm at home or away, dating back to the 2013 season. LA romps Seattle 96-66, by far the largest margin of victory and highest scoring game amongst the 7 across the board for the 7-game schedule for the Storm. It is the rookie, the hot shot, and almost everyone's favorite player, I'd say, Brianna Stewart out of UConn, 23 minutes and 33 minutes played. Jewel Lloyd with 20 points and 36 minutes played. Kalena Mosqueda-Lewis with 7 points, also notably for Seattle. Across the rest of the board, Abby Bishop with 3. Crystal Langhorne held with 2 points, and Sue Bird in 27.5 minutes played also held with 2 points. Blake Diedrich and Jenna O'Hay, both not playing. O'Hay, by the way, missed the game on Sunday, was finishing up her overseas commitments in Montpellier, France. For the LA Sparks, man, look at that woman, Candace Parker. 34 points in 31 minutes played. 12 of 20 from the field, and also made 3 of 6 from beyond the arc, made 7 of her 10 free throws, was a plus 21 in efficiency, and had an overall just dominant game in her first game back after taking half of the year off last season. Notably as well for Los Angeles, Christy Tolliver, 14 points. Nneka Ogwumike, 13 points. Essence Carson in her LA debut, 9 points. Elena Beard also had 9 points in the contest. And even Crystal's favorite player, even Ann Waters got a few minutes in there with 6 minutes played and did have 7 points in that contest as well. Also, for Los Angeles, Whitney Knight, their only draft pick that made the roster from this past draft, with no points and played the last 2 minutes and 10 seconds of the game. So, Shorty, obviously you have the highest scoring game, the largest margin of victory, and Brianna Stewart, again, has 23 points in her rookie debut. Not too shabby for, the young buck out of UConn. Shorty, your final takeaway, though, from, what was a pretty dominant game for LA, coming off of almost a disastrous season last year. Final takeaway there for LA.
Oh my goodness. I mean, it was a complete blowout, a complete, domination from the LA Sparks. And, watching the game, I mean, even though it was a big win for the Sparks, I mean, they definitely still have a lot of work to do. I mean, I've seen a lot of defensive lapses, throughout the game. So they definitely have a lot of things to work on. But, I mean, definitely Brianna Stewart, did good in her debut, as you said, 23 points, 6 rebounds. I thought, she probably, played a little scared within the first half, but as the game, started to roll on in the second half, she definitely came alive. They put her in a lot of pick and roll situations with multiple players, especially with her and Jewel Lloyd. I think throughout, her career, I think that pick and roll is going to get stronger, and she's definitely, going to look better. But just overall, I mean, she looked great in her debut as well as Jewel Lloyd, with 20 points. But oh my goodness, that woman named Candace Parker, I don't know if, she's still pissed off, even though publicly she said, she's fine. But oh my goodness, 34 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. She was definitely, out on a mission to, prove that, she still has it. If she feels like a lot of people are discounting her for whatever reason, she's like, no, I definitely, can take control over games, and she definitely did it in this game versus the Storm.
And Crystal, I told this to Todd Mintz before he came on air. May have even been yesterday when we had a little conversation about the Sparks home opener. Was the fact that Parker, to me at least, looks like she's playing with a chip on her shoulder, and you can tell in her demeanor on the floor, but she is really out to prove a lot of people wrong. I mean, but also, though, there were other players, though, wearing purple and gold that weren't named Candace Parker playing for the Sparks on Sunday, Crystal. I think as you look across the board, though, Nneka Ogwumike scores the first 5 or 7 points for the Sparks, and Parker nails a 3. They're already up 10 or they're already up early in the game, already up 8 or 10 points early. Elena Beard also looks like she's refreshed too. And also, as well, Crystal, Christy Tolliver also looks like she's also refreshed as well. Crystal, your final takeaway, though, because you were there with us, or there for us, I should say, for the IG takeover. But final takeaway, though, from LA, again, running away from Seattle in pretty dominant fashion on Sunday.
Well, first of all, it's going well when Candace Parker is asking the PA announcer who's winning between Toronto and Miami. That's what happened. That happened. She was checking in, and this is how they were just winning so big. She was checking in. She's like, "Hey, what's the score to the game?" She was like, "You know what? Tell me after I come back out." And it was that just lets you know, like, they were up by so much at that point where it's just like, we're just gonna have fun. But I enjoyed it. It was a really good game. Like you said, everybody looked refreshed. You got KT with the new ponytail, looking refreshed. Had a hot 14. Everybody did well. I mean, and I don't know if you guys noticed, but KT's defense has gotten better. Personally, like looking there, I can see a difference. I can tell she's been working hard. It looks like she got a little bit of muscle on her this year. Elena Beard always coming through with defense as usual. I mean, it's just happy. I'm happy to see LA has a bench now, and I'm happy to see that they played so well. And yes, like you brought up, Ann Waters, 7 points off the bench. You know, I knew she could do it. I was rooting for her the whole time. But yeah, I mean, I can just tell this season for LA. Hopefully, you know, it's good like this overall. I mean, that was just one game, so we can't get too excited yet. But they looked really good out there. They looked refreshed, energized, looked on the same page. I saw a lot of smiles, a lot of ha and kiki, so that's a really good sign. But you know, it's only one game. They have many more games to go, so hopefully they keep it up. But they looked really, really good. And as far as Seattle, Sue Bird looked like retirement was knocking on the door. She didn't look like herself. I think she's healthy. I don't think she's injured. She just didn't look good. I mean, that whole Seattle team did not look good. So we'll see how they go in their games. But it was really bad for them from the beginning.
You know, and Marquez, the thing I want to bring up, though, for LA specifically as well, was also the play of Chelsea Gray, who came in for about 10 minutes, had 2 points. And then, of course, as well, Essence Carson, her first game outside of New York for the first time in her career as well. You know, didn't do a whole lot until the fourth quarter when she made a couple of threes, put in and also scored a layup, maybe made a couple of free throws as well. But, again, that was also good to see. Marquez, how about your full takeaway, though, or final thoughts from L.A., again, romping Seattle on Sunday?
Well, LA took Seattle to Temecula. It was that bad. They like everything was clicking for them. Like no one had an answer for Candace and Crystal. I want to know what was with you guys as DJ doing Stewart like that after she fell, playing that Alicia Keys song. I was like, I was like, they are really wrong for this.
You know what? DJ Mosky does that. He does it all the time. You should have heard the songs he was playing for them for warm-ups. It was bad.
I was like, oh my goodness, poor Rook. But Seattle, yeah, Bird, she really looked off, and it was really sad to watch. I don't want to overreact because I mean, she had an okay year last year before she had the back injuries, but she looked really off. Like her passes didn't have any zip behind them. She couldn't really do much in terms of shooting, but I hope LA can keep this play up because if they can, they're going to be scary. They're going to be not quite Minnesota scary, but they're going to be scary.
Yeah, they'll be up there if they can play the same way. But Shorty, that does still bring me a point that Todd did bring up, though, is about, again, a third quarter little siesta. That's a nap for you folks out there, what you're wondering again. Seattle was able to cup a 25-point LA lead at the half to 12 points in the third quarter. So, Shorty, it looks like LA is going to have to polish up that third quarter, at least for now, because we've seen that, at least we saw that a lot actually last year of, quarters of lapses and scoring droughts. Shorty, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I was hoping that the Sparks would come into this year and, they would, fix their third quarter laps, but sadly, from looking in this game, they didn't. I mean, that is how, Seattle, of course, went on that run. Was in the third quarter. Sparks, sorry about that, but the Sparks, yeah, they didn't come out. They didn't come out the same as they usually do. And yeah, I'm just looking. Yeah, the third quarter right now, Sparks only scored 14 points to the Seattle Storm's 25. In the third quarter. So hopefully they can fix their third quarter woes this year. But in that game, yeah, not so much.
And again, folks, the LA Sparks again have the largest margin of victory and highest scoring affair amongst the 7 games on the schedule. Again, they romped the Storm from Staples Center 96-66 yesterday afternoon. The last game, guys, we'll get to before we cut out for the night, and we'll get to one more topic. The Liberty held off another spirited Dallas comeback last night, 79-71 from MSG in New York. It is Odyssey Sims once more again with 14 points at the top of the food chain. Courtney Parrish, 13 points. Cream of Christmas with 12. And rookie Ariel Powers with 8 points. Lynette Pearson also had 6 points. in the game. Ruth Hamblin only played a minute and change in the game, and Brianna Kessel also played some small minutes, and no Skylar Diggins either for the Wings. She is still not quite back to 100%, but should be able to play sometime soon, still recovering from that ACL tear suffered last season. Tina Charles and Sugar Rogers, 24 apiece for the Liberty. Amanda Zowie B, her first full game of action, 10 points in 13 minutes. Shavante Zellos, 8 points in 23 minutes played. And Kia Stokes with 5 points in 20 minutes played. Shoni Schimmel got a chance to play as well with 5.5 minutes played and made 1-3 for her only basket of the ball game. So, Shorty, we've seen 2 games, and in both games, we have seen Dallas almost come back and win both games. They won one of the games and lost, though, yesterday. So they're a team, though, that right now has shown me that they can be a resilient group of players, that they have been able to come back from being down by big deficits. They've taken a very good Indiana team to the brink, and they won that game, and also did it to the Liberty last night. So, Shorty, take away from Dallas and New York, what is it?
I mean, as you said, it was still pretty close. They were down, but the Wings were fighting back and trying to stay in this game. But it was just again, you had a big game from Tina Charles, had a double double, had 24 points from Sugar Rogers, and then Zowie B came back to pounce on her team with 10 points. So you know. It was it was a good game overall for the New York Liberty, and going on a streak of 2-0, their first 2-0 season for the Libs, since 2011. So I mean, things are definitely looking bright for the New York Liberty early in the season.
So, Crystal, that's 48 combined points of the 79 scored in the game. 48 were combined totals of Charles and Rogers. So right now that's a two-headed monster right now that's working for New York. And again, Dallas again did not have Diggins this weekend. But hey, they have shown that they are resilient, that they're not they're out there to really prove people wrong, that this is not the Tulsa Shock anymore, that this is going to be a ball club that will play to the end. We're not going to let you beat us by 20, 30, or 40 points like it used to be. No, it's a new era, like we've already said. But again, Crystal, one game they come back and win, and then one game a little bit short. But Crystal, resilience is probably one big word I would use to describe the Wings so far. Final takeaway from the Liberty, again, improving to 2-0 on the young season.
Anytime you have Tina Charles and Sugar Rogers both score 24 points, that's that's going to be dangerous. I wish I will say New York probably is going to need some more scoring from their bench and other players soon, because I'm not sure how long Charles and Sugar Rogers can keep it up on their own. For right now, it's okay because it's the beginning of the season, it's early, but there is a little thing called burnout, and there is a little thing called eventually we're going to get tired, and their bench production is going to have to go up. Whether it be from Harding or Zealous or Stokes or Schimmel, which we still don't know if she's going to get a lot of minutes or not. Someone else is going to have to start producing, because there's only so much that these two could do for you, especially when it comes to, this game generally was, kind of close, 8 points? So imagine if they play a team like a Minnesota or, a team like a Chicago that's going to give it to you. You're going to need more than just those two players, but nothing to take away from them. They did an amazing job. They did awesome. New York is starting to look really good. Only the second game of the season. I think they can keep it up. But, it's ultimately what comes down after the Olympic break. That's when you really see who the teams are, and that's who you normally see who's with it and who's just a pretender. So, but right now they're looking really good.
So, Marquez, again, we've seen Dallas, again, fighting back, not saying enough's enough or tapping out, saying uncle or I quit, but they've battled back from deficits, big deficits, close deficits. They've rallied to tie games. They've gone ahead in games. Marquez, what are your thoughts, though, again, or overall thoughts, again, with New York, again, going to 2-0 in the season, taking down a very talented, right now, a very good Dallas team?
Well, yeah, New York is gonna need a little bit more on the offensive side, because, like Crystal said, they want to avoid having Charles burn out, because I want to say that kind of got to her towards the end of last year. She had a burnout because she was carrying the load of the team so much. And Rogers, though, that's big for them
Mm-hmm.
because, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
she's someone that can put up that many points a night, but they're going to need more, whether it be from Schimmel, um, Zealous. Someone has to step up to the plate and be that third option. And it doesn't even have to be the same person every night. As long as they can get 10 to 15 from someone else every other night, they'll be in good shape. But in Dallas's case, they've gotten off to really slow starts in both of those games, and I saw based off the box scores and watching, Sims has been pretty inefficient to start off the year, and I don't know if that should cause as big of a concern yet. But with Diggins out and Sims being so inefficient to start, that's not going to bode well. And you kind of saw that in these games when they got off to such slow starts. And another thing that I kind of noticed with Dallas in this game against New York, they didn't have any type of three-point threat. They shot really poorly from back there. And that's what Hooper is out there for, to shoot threes. But when she's not making it or Christmas isn't, then that's going to cause some problems. And Hamlin playing a minute, I think she played like maybe 3 against Indiana. I think in her case, they're going to have to play her a little bit more, especially once people like Plaisance and Paris get into foul trouble and Gloria's still out, because that's what she's there for, to be a big body to defend and rebound. And if she's not out there, I mean, you never know. You won't know what she can do until you put her out there more so than what they're doing now.
All right, guys, we'll move to the only game coming up on Wednesday. We have no games tonight and no games tomorrow coming up. So the next game again will be on Wednesday again at that is a 9:30 a.m. Pacific start, 12:30 p.m. Eastern time start for those two teams. Again, once more, Chicago hosting Minnesota. So Shorty, we know again that the Lynx are probably are, as we know, again, favorites to win the championship again this year. But again, from what I've seen though, sometimes is they are really tough to beat at home, but sometimes not the same case, though, on the road, though. Again, going to Chicago to take on the Sky there. Shorty, your thoughts about the game and who you have winning the game as well. Go for it.
I ultimately have the Lynx winning the game, but for Chicago, I think a lot of things are going to depend on whether Alina Deladon is going to play. I think you had announced that she is in fact going to play Deladon. So if she does play, then that'll definitely be a big boost for the Sky. But ultimately, I think it'll be too much, for them, too much Minnesota, and they'll ultimately get the win.
All right, so Crystal, Shorty's win with the Lynx on the road again. And like you said though as well, Crystal, this will depend again. And what I have gathered, again, some sources have confirmed that Deladon at practice said that she's probable to play again. So we'll see what does happen. She has been sick the past couple of days. Crystal, how about your thoughts and your prediction for the game?
Ooh, as much as I want to say Chicago, I'm going to go with Minnesota, but I think it's going to be a close game. I think Chicago's going to give them a run for their money. But there's just something the way that Minnesota just played their first game. I mean, everybody looks really healthy, and they haven't looked that healthy in a while. But, like I said, it's the beginning of the season. Who knows? I'm not wishing injuries on anybody. I'm just saying everybody knows things happen, and on any team, on any side of the spectrum. But I'm going to have to go with Minnesota, though. I mean, they just looked so crisp in their first game.
All right, so we got 2 votes for Minnesota again. What do you think here, Marquez? Again, you got Chicago hosting Minnesota, 9:30 a.m. Pacific time, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Again from Allstate Arena. What do you got?
I want to say Chicago too, but I've got to go. I got to give the love to my LSU duo of Moan and Sill. I think the biggest difference in this game to watch is going to be what happens down low, because I'm not sure if Chicago has anyone that's going to be able to contain Sylvia down low. So I think they're going to go to her and establish her really early in the game. And Maya is going to be Maya, but if Elena is going to play, the key is if she's healthy. Because, I mean, if she's not 100% in that game, I'm hoping it's close. But if she's not, then I'm not sure how close it'll be if she's not as effective as she can be. But we'll see. I'm expecting it to be a fun game, though.
Yeah, I'm expecting a good one too. But guys, I think though that this matchup, as much as Chicago could be favored as home team, if Chicago does not have Deladon, that could spell trouble. So I think we're all going to take Minnesota here, guys. We'll just go around the panel real quick, around the perimeter, I should say, and get everyone's take on the other two games. I misspoke. There's two more games on Wednesday. Shorty, Mercury visit the Fever, 4 o'clock Pacific tip-off from Bankers Life Fieldhouse. Shorty, who do you got and why?
I have the Phoenix Mercury. I think, after that horrible blowout, at Minnesota, I think the Mercury, got back in practice and, they're looking to bounce back. And the Fever, I mean, I think they'll still be without, of course, they'll still be without January, and I'm still not sure whether Coleman will be back or not. But ultimately, I have the Mercury in this matchup.
So, Crystal, one vote for Phoenix again, and I believe there was also a photo put up by the Fever on Instagram that did have Coleman back at practice today. So that may be one good positive stepping stone for the Fever. Crystal, what do you think again? Merc at Fever on Wednesday evening.
I'm gonna have to go with Phoenix because even though Coleman is back, I'm not sure how much that will help them. Not saying that it won't be a close game. I think that game might be a little bit closer to the Chicago mini game. But I'm gonna have to go with Phoenix. I mean, I think they have a fire lit under them after that loss, and I don't think they want to be embarrassed like that again. Because Phoenix holds themselves to such a high standard for a professional basketball team. So I wouldn't be surprised if they get a little revenge on Indiana.
All right, so 2 votes for Phoenix, and again, Morrison Marquez, they've all cited, or at least Shorty and Crystal have cited, again, that blowout loss will be some bulletin board material, or bulletin board, no one uses those anymore, whiteboard material for Phoenix more than anything else. Marquez, what do you think again? Merc at Fever, 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 Eastern.
Oh, yeah, I got to go with the Mercury. I, too, think that the blowout is going to be bounds for retribution for them, and they're going to try to bounce back from that. And also, the starting point guard matchup, if Wheeler is going to be starting against the Mercury this game, I don't think that's going to bode too well because she turned the ball over a lot, and that's a big problem for her, and I think that's going to be a big difference in this game because, like Shorty said, January is still out. So I think Phoenix is going to use this as a way to bounce back from the big loss that they had against Minnesota.
So for both the first 2 games, folks, we all have the away team winning. There is one more game as well on Wednesday night. It is Dallas at Washington. First time these two teams will hook up, of course, from Verizon Center. Shorty, what do you think? Dallas or Washington?
This is a pretty interesting matchup. But I think ultimately, I think Dallas might take this one, even though it could go either way because you could kind of say these two teams are sort of evenly matched. But I think Dallas will come out and take this game over the Mystics.
All right, so Shorty's going with Dallas in this matchup. Crystal, how about you?
Dallas. No real explanation. I just think they're the right now they're the better team, so I'm gonna go with Dallas.
Fair response. Marquez, how about you?
This one's hard because, I mean, Dallas has been on the road for a while now. This is their 3rd straight road game. And I think if the posts for Washington step up, they can lead them to victory. But I got to go with Dallas.
Yeah, so everyone is picking the away team.
Dallas.
Everyone's picking the away team. That includes me, Shorty, Marquez, Crystal, and Tom Mintz also has picked the away teams. He says Minnesota wins in OT, Phoenix and Dallas also win, so all of us have picked the away teams to win the upcoming games on Wednesday. So again, folks, to recap your Wednesday schedule of games on Callan's 22nd birthday, big whoop. Again, you will have Dallas hosting Washington in the nightcap of the games. Also, again, Minnesota, Chicago, 9:30 a.m. Pacific time, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, and also as well Phoenix at Indiana, and again Dallas at Washington. With that, folks, we will see folks right back here. Same bat time, same bat channel, same bat people. For our good buddy Marquez Anderson from @WBB_247 on Twitter, and for Crystal Thomas and Tanisha Stewart up in Los Angeles, this has been Cal McClurg signing off. And a reminder, folks, to be sure to interact with us, of course, with our brand new social outlets. Hit us up on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. It's facebook.com/WNBA365. Of course, the Twitter handle, and Instagram, of course, is @WNBA365 on Instagram. Till then, folks, take care. Good night. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.